Well, welcome to the first of 7 videos looking at how to scope a traditional project. And what we're going to do during this particular video is provide an overview of the entire chapter and then get in a little bit into conditions of satisfaction. Alright, so this is the summary of Chapter 4, and what we're going to cover. We'll talk about some of the tools and templates and processes. The kind of big deliverables here is how do you set up a scoping meeting, what comes out of that scoping meeting in the form of a requirements breakdown structure. And then towards the end of this particular chapter, we'll get into project classification and then choosing the best fit project management lifecycle model. So there'll be some characteristics and criteria that you can use to figure out which of the models is going to be the correct model to use at this point in the project. And then we'll finish up with a project overview statement, a one-page summary that you're going to send forward to executives for approval to move forward in the project. Here are some of the tools and templates and processes. So we'll talk about conditions of satisfaction, how to generate those, what a project scoping meeting is, how to structure that, how to do requirement solicitation using brainstorming or facilitated group sessions, interviews, and prototyping, or requirement workshops. And then finally we'll get into that one-page document, the project overview statement. So that's kind of the outline of what we're going to do this particular chapter. During scoping, it all really starts with the client and figuring out what the wants and needs are of a particular project. And again, you're going to have to use your judgment and expertise in this component of the project as you're talking with the client to try to understand what the real needs are. And remember from previous videos the film of the swing and how the different perspectives of that swing played out. But in this particular case, as you're sitting there talking with the client, figure out these wants and needs, and then you want to build those into an actual document, a conditions of satisfaction document that you'll use for the project. Now, as you're trying to manage client expectations, make sure that you've got some sense of what the client wants or needs or expects, what you're going to do to meet those particular needs, and that those things are actually achievable. Worst thing you can do is agree to a particular project and then not be able to meet those expectations. As you're looking at the particular project, try to envision the landscape from the perspective of the client. Are they in the middle of a legislative session? What financial condition is their company in? How are you going to, what is the expectation of senior management of that company? So again, you want to put yourself in the shoes of your client, understand where he's coming from, and making sure at the same time you don't compromise your position in terms of promising to do things you can't possibly do. One of the things you've also want to do, and this will become much more apparent in one of the later videos, is assess the degree to which the client is going to be involved in the project. If the client is not going to be involved in the project, is not willing to play an active role, then in most cases you're limited to traditional project management. If the client is willing to be involved in the project, then Agile and Extreme become have a greater chance of success. And again, this becomes important if you're trying to solve a particular project that's going to require an extreme approach. It's research and development, and the client is not willing to play. You're not going to be successful. There's too much learning that has to take place by not only yourself but by the client. And if they're not actively involved, that learning is not going to take place. It's going to be retarded. All right, here's what the project scoping process is. How about the entire chapter on one slide? So ideally you want to start out with writing a conditions of satisfaction and sitting down with the customer to kind of work through those. Conditions of satisfaction work well for small projects and then medium projects. It's not going to work well with larger projects because there's simply too many requirements that have to be assessed. But at the beginning of the project, you want to sit down and you know, being concise and succinct, you just want to get what will make you happy? What will, at the end of the day when we finish the project, what will leave you satisfied with a particular project? From that, you can define requirements, and then at that point make a determination. Is this a simple project? If so, then go ahead and write the project overview statement and submit it for approval. If it's not simple, and most projects are not simple, then you're going to go into a project scoping meeting. And during that project scoping meeting, you're going to create a requirements breakdown structure. So it's going to be a document that takes the requirements and breaks them down from a goal all the way down to the features of a particular solution. From there, you're going to use a series of questions to assess the completeness of requirements. Once you've done that, you classify this project within the landscape. Remember, we have a 4-quadrant landscape. Once you figure out what quadrant the project's going to be in, then you pick the best fit model from within that quadrant. At that point, you're ready to write that one-page project overview statement. You submit it for approval, and if it's approved, then you're ready to move on to the next process group and look at planning. All right, well, there you go. In one slide, I've covered the entire chapter. I'm going to take 6 more videos to do this, of course, as we go into detail. But let's go back to that first block up here, this conditions of satisfaction, and look at that one. So we've talked about this a little bit before, but during this process of establishing conditions of satisfaction, the client, starting at the top, is going to make a request. You, as the project manager, are going to clarify that request. There'll be a response back from the client, and there'll either be agreement on that, or you'll continue to refine that until there's agreement on what the actual request or requirement is as a condition of satisfaction. And this process continues until you've identified all of the conditions of satisfaction. Now, obviously, there's some negotiation going on here to make sure, again, you're getting back to what are the wants and needs of a particular project, what's the environment, how much risk is involved with this, how much uncertainty is there in this particular project. And so there are a lot of different factors that are taking place as you're trying to work through the conditions of satisfaction. Now, are the conditions of satisfaction going to change throughout the project? Absolutely. And so you just have to keep that in mind. It's just human nature that those conditions, as the client sees more and more of the solution of a project, there's going to be some changes, but you want to manage those changes, and likewise you want to build a project that has the agility, the flexibility to handle these additional requests without canceling the entire project and leading to a dissatisfied client. All right, well, very well. That brings us to the end of the first of 7 videos looking at how to scope a traditional project. And during this video, I've provided an overview of the chapter. I've looked at client wants and needs, and then I've summarized the entire chapter in one slide. How cool is that? And then got into a little bit to that first step of the conditions of satisfaction. And what I'm going to do during the next video is look at that scoping meeting. All right, well, keep on learning, keep on studying, and I'll see you in the next video.